Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
Good morning, I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm John Tucker. Here are the stories we're following today.
John, let's begin with the presidential race and Elon Musk's latest effort to inject himself into it. The billionaire hosted former President Donald Trump in an X Spaces conversation that lasted more than 2 hours. Once it started, the live stream was delayed more than 40 minutes. Musk blamed hackers.
We unfortunately had a massive distributed denial of service attack against our servers. As this massive attack illustrates, there's a lot of opposition to people just hearing what President Trump has to say.
But once Elon Musk's conversation started with former President Trump, he did have a lot to say about the attempt on his life, about illegal immigration, and on the prospects of a wider war in the Middle East.
They're all waiting for an attack from Iran. Iran would not be attacking, believe me. You know, when I was there, and I say it with respect, because I think we would have been good with Iran. I don't want to do anything bad to Iran, but they knew not to mess around.
And at one point, Elon Musk pitched a role for himself in a future Trump administration.
I think it would be great to just have a government efficiency commission that takes a look at these things and just ensures that the taxpayer money, the taxpayers' hard-earned money, is spent in a good way. And I'd be happy to help out on such a commission.
I'd love it
if it were formed.
Well, you're the greatest cutter.
And following the event, the Kamala Harris campaign released a statement saying that the conversation showed Trump's campaign is only about self-obsessed rich guys who would sell out the middle class.
And plenty of reaction to the Trump-Musk conversation. Bloomberg managing editor Derek Wallbank says the confab was an important one for Musk.
If Donald Trump wins, Elon Musk has a lot at stake, and if he loses, he has a lot at stake as well. Musk's companies are tremendous U.S. government contract holders, particularly SpaceX. At the same point, Musk is also somebody whose car company, Tesla, has a lot in terms of tax plans and things like that would be a subject of a U.S. administration. So Musk has, in addition to his own ideological proclivities and alignments, he actually has a lot at stake in this election. He's gone really, really hard on one side, not hedging his bets at all.
Bloomberg's Derek Wallbank says after the Trump conversation, Musk posted that he'd be happy to host Vice President Harris on X Spaces.
Moving from the online realm to the real world, John, the FBI says it is investigating efforts to hack both the Harris and Trump campaigns. Bloomberg's Ed Baxter has more.
The GOP says hackers attempted to get into Roger Stone, a former Trump advisor's account. The Harris campaign says some Harris staffers were targets. The Washington Post first reported the attempts. The Harris campaign itself says it does not appear to be a victim. It says the campaign vigilantly monitors and protects against cyber threats, and that it is not aware of any security breaches. The Trump campaign hasn't responded directly. Ed Baxter, Bloomberg Radio.
Thanks, Ed. And the hack attempts come as authorities say they're investigating a burglary at a Donald Trump campaign office in suburban Virginia. Political reports that the local sheriff's office released a surveillance video of a man inside the building with what appears to be a full backpack. The sheriff's department did not say what, if anything, was taken.
Let's turn down to the latest in the Middle East, John. U.S. officials now say an Iranian attack against Israel has grown even more likely. We get details from Bloomberg's Rosalind Matheson.
So they're publicly warning that some sort of retaliation from Iran does seem to still be coming, because a lot of people are asking the question as to if Iran intends to retaliate for the death of this Hamas official in Tehran 2 weeks ago. Why have they not retaliated? And are they going to still retaliate? And what the US is warning is that very much seems to be in the ether for Iran to do something. And Tehran, of course, has been saying they feel obliged to retaliate for this killing, which they blame on Israel. And Israel's never claimed responsibility for it, at least publicly.
Bloomberg's Roz Matheson says the last time Iran attacked Israel back in April, it fired hundreds of ballistic missiles and drones, almost all of which were intercepted.
And turning to the markets, stocks are up around the world ahead of some key inflation data. Japan's Nikkei gained 3.5% and has now recouped its losses from last week's rout. European averages and U.S. futures also higher. Amanda Gotti, the Chief Investment Officer of Asset Management at PNC Bank, is bullish on stocks going forward thanks to earnings.
Expectations for earnings growth in 2025 are near 15%. That's a huge number on a year-over-year basis. And so while things may be choppy between here and, say, the election or the results of the election, we do think it will pave the way for some additional momentum into 2025. So we're absolutely thinking that we can finish the year fairly strong and set the stage for a strong 2025 as well.
PNC's Amanda Gotti says the stock market right now is priced for perfection, and she's looking at fixed income in the short term.
Well, John, investors are going to get the first of two key inflation reports this morning. Before the opening bell, we get the July reading on producer prices. Economists are forecasting a gain of 0.2%. We get a preview from Bloomberg's Michael McKee.
For only the second time this year, the PPI report will be released ahead of CPI. That could mean some market volatility if there are any surprises in the data. While changes in producer prices don't correlate directly to changes in consumer prices, some investors may try to pre-trade the CPI given sensitivities around the Fed and inflation. Could there be a surprise? Last month, headline producer prices jumped on an annual basis, although that move did not translate into the CPI. Michael McKee, Bloomberg Radio.
All right, thanks, Mike. And the big inflation report comes tomorrow with the July reading on consumer prices. Steve Chivarone is the senior portfolio manager at Federated Hermes.
If the CPI is soft, and that reinforces market expectations of, at least 25 basis points, if not 50 basis points of cuts in September, and the Fed is cooperative in terms of Fed speak, I think the market will get some comfort. If, however, we have a weakening of the labor force and we get a hotter than expected CPI print this month, the market might be concerned that the Fed is stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Federated Hermes Steve Chivarone adds that after tomorrow's CPI data, all eyes will be on the next jobs report. That brings us to 5:08 on Wall Street. Time for a look at some of the other stories making news in New York and around the world. After that, we're joined by Bloomberg's Michael Barr. Michael, good morning.
Good morning, John. Ukraine's top military commander says his forces now control 386 square miles of Russia's neighboring Kursk region. It is one of the most serious incursions Russian President Vladimir Putin has faced since the start of the war. Putin vows a strong response after almost a week of fierce fighting. Meanwhile, the State Department says the U.S. is aware of reports that Iran is planning to deliver ballistic missiles to Russia. During a State Department briefing, spokesman Vinay Patel says the U.S. is concerned about the, quote, deepening security partnership between Iran and Russia.
It is not just a threat to European security, it's a threat to Middle East security, but it also shows that Iran's destabilizing influences has reached beyond the Middle East region, and that should be of concern to the entire world.
State Department spokesman Vinay Patel. It's a setback in Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s presidential bid. A judge in Albany, New York, ordered him off the ballot in the state. A Democrat-aligned group argued in a lawsuit that Kennedy misled voters by listing as his home an address he rarely visits. Meet the new FDNY commissioner. Mayor Eric Adams appointed Robert Tucker, the head of a private security firm, to lead New York City's fire department.
Public safety has been my life's work. I've had a long career in the public and private sector, and being appointed fire commissioner of the city of New York is the biggest honor of my life.
Tucker, who is 54, takes over from Laura Kavanaugh, the first woman to serve as the city's fire commissioner. Like Kavanaugh, Tucker has never worked as a firefighter. The Los Angeles area was rattled by a magnitude 4.4 earthquake Monday. The epicenter was in Highland Park, north of L.A., where there was another earthquake in June. This woman was inside when the quake hit.
The lights were shaking, all of our glass doors were coming off of the walls and then hitting the walls back again. It was pretty crazy.
The quake was felt as far away as San Diego. Global news 24 hours a day and whenever you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Michael Barr. This is Bloomberg, John.
Michael, thank you. That brings us to 5:10 on Wall Street. Time for the Bloomberg Sports Update. And for that, good morning, John Stashower.
All right, good morning, John. Yankees went to Chicago, figuring they'd get some easy wins. There was an easy victory, but it was by the lowly White Sox, a team that has already lost 91 games, including 24 of their previous 25. But the Yanks stranded a bunch of runners early, fell behind, And then the White Sox blew the game open with a 6-run seventh inning. They crushed Aaron Boone's team 12-2.
Credit to them. Everything they hit tonight was a hit, and I thought we played hard. I thought we did a lot of really good things on defense. We made some really good plays, had some outs at the plate, manufactured a run with Jazz and opening up a lane. We just we couldn't punch through. We didn't hit the ball out of the ballpark, and we couldn't stop them.
Mets were off. They fell a game behind Atlanta when the Braves won 1-0 at San Francisco. 7 scoreless innings for Chris Sale. He struck out 12. Sale is the lowest ERA in the National League. Jets made a big offseason trade with Philadelphia. They acquired Hassan Reddick, 50 sacks the last 4 seasons, 4th most in the NFL, but he's going to the last year of his contract, wants a new deal. He's been holding out, getting fined $50,000 a day. Reddick has demanded a trade. The Jets say they're not going to deal him. And there's a defensive player in New England also wants to trade. Matthew Judon, similar situation. Last year of his contract, he had been at training camp and was seen having animated cough for Patriots coach and GM. Full NBA schedule not out yet, but the opening game's word for the Knicks. October 22nd in Boston. Celtics will hoist their championship banner. John Stashauer, Bloomberg Sports. John and Nathan.
Coast to coast on Bloomberg Radio, nationwide on Sirius XM, and around the world on Bloomberg.com and the Bloomberg Business app. This is Bloomberg Daybreak.
Good morning, I'm Nathan Hager. Former President Donald Trump's latest effort to reframe the 2024 race is being posted on X. The former president held a more than 2-hour conversation with Elon Musk that touched on many of the themes from his campaign rallies, including on the war in Ukraine.
Ukraine now doesn't have enough men. They're now using young men and very old men to fight. And we're in a very bad position. And I'm not going to blame exclusively, but I can tell you I could have stopped that. And a smart president could have stopped that. It wouldn't have happened.
And that's just part of the conversation with former President Trump and Elon Musk last night on X Spaces. Joining us now for more this morning is Tina Fordham, founder and geopolitical strategist at Fordham Global Foresight. Tina, good morning. So we're talking about this conversation this morning. Are voters going to be talking about it beyond this week?
Well, that's the right question. We had a 2-hour plus, unplugged conversation between two of the most influential people in the world. Your clip there just highlighted one of the things that kept distracting me, which was the weird speech impediment lisping going on. Was somebody forget to put his dentures in? But will it move the needle on the polls? And on that front, I think it's net neutral, right? Preaching to the choir, to perhaps slightly negative.
Just to play devil's advocate, some of that lisp could be attributed to the glitchiness in the conversation, the limitations of digital live stream. But I mean, this conversation took 40 minutes to get started because of the glitches. Could that be a potential setback?
Well, I mean, it doesn't look great for Musk's space platform, right? It's X Spaces, and the 40 minutes, he said it was a denial of service. Recall that the Florida governor DeSantis had similar problems when he tried to launch a campaign event. These contribute to people's perceptions of organization. But again, that audience was almost certainly the choir, and they would have been coming to hear their heroes. So I'm not sure it damages them too much, because I'm not sure that people who were undecided were joining that call.
Yeah, I wanted to get to that, whether a conversation on X would get more outreach beyond, some of the super fans that are now dominating much of the conversation on X now that Elon Musk has taken over. Do you see the former president reaching out beyond some of his base in a conversation like this?
Well, I don't think this medium will have done that, at least not the live conversation. Of course, they can cut it up into clips. But what I'm already seeing from the Harris campaign is, their social media campaign is very slick. And so they are releasing mini clips, the ones that are obviously seem the most disadvantaged to Trump. And their press release this morning said, whatever that was. So it's fodder for the opposition as well. listen, this was no Frost-Nixon conversation. It wasn't particularly hard-hitting. And we had Trump, doing Trump, saying things like climate change will have this, this positive byproduct of more oceanfront property, and that he would go to Venezuela if he lost in the election. Is that a vote winner?
That prepackaged sort of slick response from the Harris campaign, couldn't it feed into some of the criticism that the Trump campaign has put out there that Harris hasn't made herself available for these kinds of freewheeling conversations? I mean, after the live chat last night, Elon Musk invited Kamala Harris to come on. Should she?
Well, both sides are staying in their comfort zones. I think we can say that. So Harris and Walz are out talking to huge campaign rallies, but as you say, haven't done any press conferences or one-to-one interviews, and have only, well, it's only been a few weeks, of course, but they've only just now started releasing anything resembling policy positions. Trump, for his part, has a very light schedule of campaign events. He has almost none between now and U.S. Labor Day. And conversations like this are almost like an online rally. So are both of them keeping their powder dry? I think that's the way of thinking about it, because the next big signpost for the two campaigns is the September 10th the first debate between the two of them, right. Trump's second debate. And Harris has got the DNC starting on the 15th.
This is Bloomberg Daybreak Today, your morning brief on the stories making news from Wall Street to Washington and beyond.
Look for us on your podcast feed by 6 a.m. Eastern each morning on Apple, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.
You can also listen live each morning starting at 5 a.m. Wall Street time on Bloomberg 1130 in New York, Bloomberg 99.1 in Washington, Bloomberg 106.1 in Boston, and Bloomberg 960 in San Francisco.
Our flagship New York station is also available on your Amazon Alexa devices. Just say, Alexa, play Bloomberg 1130.
Plus, listen coast to coast on the Bloomberg Business app, Sirius XM Channel 119, the iHeartRadio app, and on Bloomberg.com. I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm John Tucker. Join us again tomorrow morning for all the news you need to start your day right here on Bloomberg Daybreak.